Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment.
When I, 18 female, was 5, my mom died. My mom always wore this necklace that she got as a teenager. It was unique and special and meant so much to her, and she gave it to me to wear before she died. She told me that if I ever wanted something physical to think of her by, I could have that. And she knew it would work because she always wore it. And I treasured that necklace. When I was 7, my dad got remarried, and he and his wife had a daughter, and within a few months, my half-sister was born. I was 8. One day when she was 6, she asked me if she could wear the necklace, and I said no. She got upset. My dad and his wife were upset with me for being unwilling to share it, so my dad forced me to take it off and gave it to my half-sister. He said from that day on it was hers because she deserved it, and I had acted immaturely and cruelly by refusing to let her even touch the necklace. My dad and I got into a big fight about it, and his wife inserted herself into the whole thing by saying I loved the necklace more than I loved my half-sister. It was less than a week later when everything shut down, and for months after, things were tense and I was angry. Like beyond angry, because my half-sister kept the necklace and I was seething. She refused to give it back to me, and Dad would yell when I would try demanding it back, when asking failed. 2 years ago, she broke the necklace. It was an accident, but I was there when it happened, and she was being careless with it, and her parents were watching. I lost my crap, and yelled and cursed, and told my dad I would never forgive any of them, and I would never, ever let it go. It took a month of me feeling that way for him to regret it, and to realize that my half-sister cared more that I was mad at her than she was about the necklace. Because part of him actually believed the necklace meant something to her too. I refused to accept this apology. His wife called me bitter and said I was shameful for loving a necklace more than my own sister. I told her I never loved my half-sister, and she and her husband could thank themselves for making things even worse. I turned 18 in November, and I moved in with my granddad. We had talked about it for ages before, but he picked me up and I left. My dad was trying to stop me leaving, and both my half-siblings, I have a half-brother as well. My dad was trying to stop me leaving, and both my half-siblings, I have a half-brother as well, were upset I was leaving and wanted me to stay. But I left, and I intend to never return. My dad has not let up, and when I blocked him after he refused to stop calling, he showed up outside my school last week and told me we needed to talk, and he wanted me to move back in, and graduation was this year and he needed info. I told him he's not coming, so he doesn't need to know anything. He told me of course he was coming. They all are. I looked him in the eye and told him if they show up, I won't attend the ceremony and will never give him the satisfaction of watching me graduate. He told me I took it all too far and should find a way to forgive. Am I the a-hole? They completely disrespected OP and disregarded OP's feelings. It was incredibly unfair of them to force OP to give up the necklace and give it to her half-sister, especially considering its sentimental value. OP has every right to distance herself from toxic relationships. Her mother gave it to her. I don't see how to trust a man who cares so little about his daughter's feelings and boundaries. He failed miserably. He should never have let OP's sister have that necklace. OP is definitely not in the wrong for standing up for herself and prioritizing her own emotional well-being. She deserves to move forward with her life surrounded by people who respect and support her. And now let's see if the community has the same opinion as me. Antelope 31 says, "Not the a-hole. Where's your necklace now? Your dad would be blocked forever if it was me. I'm sorry you lost 2 parents. He spit on your mom's grave and traumatized an already grieving child by taking the one physical thing she had left as an irreplaceable gift from her mother. That's inexcusable. He is a weak excuse of a man and never put his first responsibility to the child he already had above his own wants. Tell him when you get your repaired necklace back and an apology, give you a call. Then take it and let go of him and your resentment and pain, like a helium balloon." Original poster says, "I have it. My granddad paid for repairs, but it will never be in as good condition. It was damaged in a way that couldn't be entirely fixed." Vine Vinny Vissy says, "Not the a-hole. You owe them nothing, and your dad and his wife were horrible to you for forcing you to give up your mom's necklace. I wouldn't blame your sister, as she's just a kid, But her parents should have had much better judgment. You do not have to be in contact with anyone if you don't want to. Again, not the a-hole. Disinaccurate says, not the a-hole. He knew how much the necklace meant to you. He had chance after chance to undo what he did. He turned down every single opportunity. Now the consequence of choosing his new family over his eldest daughter is biting him in the butt, and it's too late to undo what he's done. He says you should find a way to forgive, yet he hasn't done a single thing to try to earn forgiveness. Even now, he still is choosing himself over you.
Me and Allie met through a mutual friend in 2012 during a pub quiz at university. I was quite attracted to her and actually told her so at the end of the evening, but she told me she had a boyfriend, even though she was flattered all the same. Fast forward 3 years later. I meet Eliza at the Edinburgh Fringe, and we just clicked immediately. Politics, music, cinema, whatever the subject approached, there was a spark that I'd never felt with anyone else. Like she just made sense with me. Her personality was just vivid. It's hard to describe, but I'll try. On first impression, she was so knowledgeable and enthusiastic, I was taken aback by her instantly. From that point onwards, we were inseparable, and I was dead certain of our future together long before we got engaged. Enter Ali again. I started a new job at an advertising firm with a position in web design, and she was one of the only people I knew. At first, it was a little awkward given our history, especially considering that she was now married to the boyfriend she was dating back then. But there was no one else I knew at the firm, and we both had partners at this point, so it couldn't hurt to be friends, right? And to be honest, I'm glad because I feel like our chemistry as friends superseded any potential we might have had as a couple. She's clever and has a bit of a cheeky personality. I'm quite dry and sarcastic myself, so I reckon we have a pretty fun dynamic. Eliza doesn't seem to feel that way though. Sometimes when it's been just the three of us, she has expressed a feeling of being left out or that Ali has been making fun of her. I don't see it. It's just our dynamic. But there have been a couple of nights where Eliza's been in tears because of something that Ali has said. One time Eliza got out of her seat and Ali sat down where she was sitting to show me a video on YouTube. When Eliza came back in, she saw Ali leaning next to me and was upset for the rest of the night. Sometimes there have been times when Ali has said something that Eliza has read as a come on. Like when I said I missed swimming because I felt out of shape, Ali said the two of us should go together with a playful punch. Eliza didn't say anything at the time, but her discomfort was visible. Things really came to a head though on our wedding, and I think the stress of it really got to Eliza. During the reception, Ali bumped into her and red wine spilled all over her dress. She was bawling the entire evening. We're now on our honeymoon, and Eliza said she hopes for a fresh start, but she feels like Ali might have spilled her wine on purpose. She's suggesting that I cut ties with her, and if I'm honest, I'm not sure I want to. Where do I go from here? It really sounds like OP is putting his friend first. No wonder OP's wife is unhappy. I don't really understand why even get married if OP is not going to take his wife's feelings and perspective into consideration. She has told OP more than once that she is uncomfortable. Looks like OP is either blind or stupid. He should start listening to her, otherwise I think he will lose her. She deserves better. And now let's hear the community's opinion. No, yeah, thanks, Sess. The number of times I've bumped into someone and spilt my drink on them is exactly once in my entire life. And I was a trash teenager. You are either astoundingly naive, or Ali is somehow the unluckiest woman in the world to accidentally spill her red wine on the bride on her wedding day. I think you know which one is more likely. Your wife won't be staying your wife much longer unless you start actually listening to her and stop dismissing all of her fears as baseless insecurities. Haunting Aardvark 709 says, "You have failed your new wife so many times in the past. I hope you're going to do better starting today." Star Valiant says, "So someone who has a habit of accidentally saying or doing things that make your wife cry, accidentally, also managed to spill red wine over her white dress on the biggest day of her life. And you don't think that's at all suspicious? If you knew, and imagine here that you somehow knew for certain, that she'd done it on purpose, what would your reaction be? Would it change how you thought about her? Give it some thought." Update. You know, I posted here recently looking for guidance on how to deal with my wife's anxiety and hurt revolving around my friend, and it seems like I got read the riot act, probably rightfully so. I have been completely inconsiderate of Eliza's feelings and how she feels about these roastings,
and you alerted me to the possibility that Allie is doing this just to be a little crap. I sat down with Eliza, and we had an in-depth conversation about the wedding incident. I got her to describe the event step by step in her own words. Quote, I was leaving the lobby into the dining venue, and Allie was a little tipsy at this point and already stumbling from the bar. She was initially walking slower, but seemed to speed up when she saw me. We collided into each other, and she pulled in a shamed face and made a joke about me looking like Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl before scurrying away. She seemed embarrassed in the moment, but she didn't apologize to me. I heard from other people that she was appalled about what happened, but I never heard anything from her directly. It just paints a picture of habitual microaggressions from her that has festered into this ugly anxiety whenever she's around. I pretty much predict whenever I'm in her vicinity, there will be weird behavior or uncomfortable comments, and I don't want to continue being in a situation where my husband brings someone into my home who resents me simply for existing. End quote. That was a real gut punch for me. For me, I always felt like it was just insecurity about me fancying Allie for 10 minutes yonks ago, but Eliza is really torn up about this. She said that the honeymoon has been miserable because the memory has been swirling around in her mind, and she feels like I'm going to downplay or dismiss it. No one should feel like they can't just be themselves, especially not at home. I didn't realize what a jerk I'd been, and I apologized profusely to Eliza and decided to phone up Ali to confront her about the wedding incident. So I did, and it didn't go well. Basically, I told her that Eliza was really hurt by the wedding dress incident, and that she had been hurt by her behavior for a long time, and that if she can't bring herself to apologize to Eliza's face, at least she could pay towards getting the stain removed. And if she couldn't bring herself to even do that, then our friendship had to stop. To say that Allie was taken aback would be an understatement. She was completely blindsided, asking what was wrong with their interactions that made me want to go to such extremes. I mentioned the leapfrog comment, and she went, "But even you call her that," stating that Eliza called her Garfield because of her weight and bright orange hair. When I mentioned that she ran towards Eliza and didn't apologize for spilling wine on her, she got really upset and started shouting that she wasn't running at her to hurl wine at her dress. She was running from her because she didn't want to talk at that moment because she feels like Eliza hates her and she doesn't know how to go about it. She started pointing out times when Eliza has been funny towards her, and I basically said, "Right, but this isn't about when Eliza hurts you. This is about when you've hurt Eliza, and it's got so bad that it needs to be talked about." And she started laughing. It was really uncomfortable. I know she does this when she's anxious about something. Eliza asked me if things were okay from the other room, and Allie demanded if this was set up, and when I tried to explain myself, she hung up. Her husband even phoned me, insisting that he would pay for the damage if it is less stressful for me. I told Ewan, husband, that I appreciated that, but I needed to know where Allie stood regarding what I just said. Ewan told me that Allie makes jokes whenever she's anxious or uncomfortable, and that they've wrote about it in the past, but the wedding dress incident is a major issue, and that he wants to smooth things over as much as I do. So him and Allie will pay towards dry cleaning, whilst a condolences hamper is sent to Eliza. Eliza was relieved that Ewan was so understanding, but she wasn't thrilled about Allie's reaction. Basically said that the Garfield comment was always about her hair, and never about her weight, and that she was deliberately trying to make it seem like the bad behavior went both ways. I don't think it went both ways either, cause I've never noticed Eliza roasting Allie in any real way. Eliza has suggested we try marriage counseling. I was a bit shocked at first, because we've only been married a month, but I decided maybe that's the way forward, because if Eliza reckons that we need counseling for it, then it's clearly a problem. So yeah, me and Eliza are going to try marriage counseling, and my future with Allie is uncertain. Update 2. Eliza and me received the condolences hamper in the post, and it was primarily soaps. Not in the sense of fragrant body lotions or luxury packages, or even organic bars. Just regular run-of-the-mill soaps. There were 2 dispensers that were faintly rose-scented, but it was so mild you had to really look for it. There were several white soap bars that didn't smell of anything. Really, it was so confusing. The only items that suggested it was a proper gift basket were a 6-pound bottle of Chardonnay and a box of Rose's chocolates that looked a fair deal more effort than the cleaning equipment at the nearest pub. The weirdest item, though, a pair of women's underpants. Not lingerie, not anything lacy or risque, like just a plain pair of white pants. They were actually kind of grubby. There was a faint orange lining on them. It just didn't make sense to me, because if they were meant to be for Eliza, they were at least 6 sizes too big. And if Allie really was making a move on me, then they were again around 6 sizes too big. Also, why would she choose such disgusting pants to try and seduce me? It weirded me out so much, I rang up Allie, asking why I had soap and grubby knickers in our condolences hamper. She kept making dry remarks to her husband about there being a strange noise on the other end of the phone. I didn't get anywhere with her and insisted that Ewan should talk to me instead, because getting anywhere with her was like pulling teeth at this rate. After some disgruntled remarks, she passed the phone over. Ewan asked what was up, and I explained the whole situation. He was momentarily surprised when I described the hamper as looking like the luggage of a janitor that lived under a bridge. He said that it was a small package, but there should have been several luxury gifts that weren't simply sanitary items. Apparently, there was a bottle of Chardonnay, a bottle of Shiraz, 1 box of Rose chocolates, a Lindt bar, a selection of crackers, and some assorted cheeses. Somehow that got replaced with leftover soaps bought in bulk, and his wife runs that Allie found ever so hilarious, and apparently found ever so hilarious to send to my wife. He was hugely apologetic and embarrassed, stating that he'd pay us the cost towards the lost items. I was raging at this point, but I tried to be collected and said, "Right, let me talk to Allie again, please." And he got her on the line. I told her that she had the chance to make it right, and she blew it. And she groaned and told me that Eliza's jealousy has crippled our friendship, and she was sick of having to flatter her insecurities. I said, "No, you are Eliza's insecurities," and we rode for a bit. Eventually, it ended with me saying that this had been building up for a while, and that her attitude had been giving Eliza grief for years. Allie said none of this would be happening if Eliza knew how to take a joke. And I just told her that a joke isn't ruining her wedding dress and then sending her your husband's stinky wife fronts. She said I sold out my principles for a girl who's threatened by other women. After the phone call, Eliza was not so much hurt as she was confused at first, because she was wondering if there was a mix-up until I explained to her the joke. She seemed pretty much resigned to the idea that Allie would always be a jerk, and I told her the likelihood of that happening was very slim, considering she's cut me off for standing up for her. I think the counseling has made us stronger, and in a weird way, I'm glad this happened. Because if your friendship falls apart the moment you try to protect your loved ones, then they probably weren't that strong of friendships at all. Shame I won't be speaking to Ewan from now on. He's a top lad.